Welcome. Happy Thursday. Can you believe it's Thursday already? I'm kind of like blown away by how fast this week has gone. And my to-do list is still like, but you know, that's life, right? Welcome. If you are new here, my name is Kathy. I am an artist, and every day at 10, but just to be real with you, I'm usually like 5 minutes late. Okay. Maybe I'm 10 minutes late. Anyway, I'm here every morning, and we do another artist. Every day we talk about a commercial artist of the 19th century. So the 19th century, and this is something I always have been like gotten confused about. So let's just say another thing I've learned. I always get confused with like how the 19th century is actually the 1800s and the 20th century is actually the 1900s. So it's basically like artists from the 1800s, sometimes the turn of the century, a lot of times the turn of the century actually lately. Yeah, it's kind of a blast. It's kind of like an eye opener. We learn so much about, where did I put my pen? Oh, I got it. There's my pen tool. We learn so much about history, about the times, about culture of the time, about the politics of the time, about the social stuff of the times. Anyway, if that's how, oh, I forgot to tell you. So first we read Wikipedia, and oftentimes I don't read it beforehand. I usually try to like skim it just to check for like problematic-y stuff and to make sure that like I don't need to switch out my artist. That's another thing that happens. I will, if I am vetting an artist that I have no idea anything about before I do it, and I find that their values do not align with mine, or just with okay, how do I say stuff without saying it on YouTube? If I find that if I find them to be, for whatever reason, I don't want to do them, I will choose an alternate and do it instead. And then, you know, I try I try really hard to make sure that, because back in those days, okay, anytime. Okay, now we're getting into a bigger conversation. Yeah. I mean, you know, you can do what you can do, and then you course correct if need be, right? So that's kind of the situation, right? But I've been very lucky. There's been a few artists that for whatever reason I have swapped out. And if you want to, if you want to get an idea of a situation where that came up, go check out the video, the stream that I did. I think the title starts with problematic artists. So it happened this month earlier. So definitely check that one out if you want to get a sense for like, what if that happens? It also happened on October 1st, and I almost said I unlived that video. That doesn't make sense. I unpublished that video and I explained, but I do always try to be as transparent as possible about those things that happen. And why am I talking about such heavy stuff when I just came on? I just want to give you an idea of like who I am and what I'm doing here. So my goal with all of this is there's so much that we don't know, and history is so fascinating, and the history of just art and just the history of life is so fascinating, like the history of our country and other countries and everything. And there's so much that I don't know. And if there's so much I don't know, there's so much you probably don't know too, so we can learn together. And I also like to do homage art to the artist or about the artist as the second part of this stream. So I do that every day too. And sometimes that time can be longer because sometimes I pick a piece and then I get really into it and then I stay here for a couple of hours doing it. So full disclosure, today I picked a piece already that I think I'm going to be okay. I don't think it's going to be like a 3-hour today. Fingers crossed. Not that there's anything wrong with 3 hours. I'm rambling now. Now I'm rambling. Hey, Ashish. Welcome. Welcome to my stream. My name is Kathy. I'm an artist, and every day I come on and do this. So I already said that part. So let's go to John Tenniel. I don't know really much about John Tenniel at all. I know that he did Alice in Wonderland, the original, Lewis Carroll, Alice in Wonderland, and Alice Through the Looking Glass, and what Alice found there. So I've just very much skimmed his Wikipedia, so it's pretty much going to be a cold one today, a cold read, and we're going to learn together. So what happens is I read, I react, and we chat. If you chat, I chat back. So that's kind of the way that it goes. And are you ready? Buckle in. Let's do this. Hey, where's my picture? Oh, there it is. Okay, one of my pictures, I think, in the slideshow. I might have to, let me see if I should delete it. I took out a picture and I think I didn't tell the slideshow. Just a minute. I'm just going to scroll and see. If I can see. No, it's okay. We're just going to have to deal with it. It's okay. I didn't do it before we started. So, all right, let's do this. Come on, John Tenniel. Okay, cheers. I got to have my sip of coffee, which I do. Usually, I have my first sip of coffee with you. However, today, I'm already half done with my mug of coffee. So, that's good. And maybe that accounts for like my chattiness today. But I kind of feel like it's important to tell you who I am and what I'm doing here because I don't often do that. I only just started to just say, hey, I'm Kathy and this is what I'm doing. But today we had a little more of a chat. So, all right, let's start. Let's just go right in here. John Tenniel. From Wikipedia, the free encyclopedia. Sir John Tenniel. 28 February 1820 he was born. 25 February 1914 he died. He was an English illustrator, graphic humorist, and political cartoonist, prominent in the second half of the 19th century. So the second half of the 1800s, so 1850 and plus. For anybody who was like me and always got confused about 19th century, 20th century, like what are we talking about here? That's what we're talking about. 19th century is the 1800s. 20th century is the 1900s. An alumnus of the Royal Academy of Arts in London, he was knighted for artistic achievements in 1893, the first such honor ever bestowed on an illustrator or a cartoonist. Wow. Okay, so wow. All right. He was knighted. So he's Sir John Tenniel. Tenniel is remembered mainly as the principal political cartoonist for Punch Magazine for over 50 years. Principal political cartoonist for Punch Magazine. Okay, for over 50 years. And for his illustrations to Lewis Carroll's Alice's Adventures in Wonderland, 1865, and Through the Looking Glass and What Alice Found There, 1871. Tenniel's detailed black and white drawings remain the definitive depiction of the Alice characters, with comic book illustrator and writer Brian Talbot stating, "Carroll never describes the Mad Hatter. Our image of him is pure Tenniel." So he cast the die for the Mad Hatter. Pretty amazing. That's a lasting legacy right there. Early life. Tenniel was born in Bayswater, West London, to John Baptist Tenniel, a fencing and dancing master of Huguenot descent. Let's look into Huguenot just real quick. I want to see what this is. The Huguenots are a religious group of French Protestants who held to the Reformed Calvinist tradition of Protestantism. The term, which may be derived from the name of a Swiss political leader, the Genevan burgomaster Bassan Hughes, was in common use by the 16th century, and I apologize if I pronounced stuff wrong, because that is very possible. Okay. Let's see here. Okay. A fencing. Okay. I'm going to read it again, because we know what Huguenot is. Tenniel was born in Bayswater, West London, to John Baptist Tenniel, a fencing and dancing master of Huguenot descent. Fencing is sword, a sport. And Eliza Maria Tenniel. Tenniel had 5 siblings, 2 brothers and 3 sisters. One sister, Mary, was later to marry Thomas Goodwin Green, owner of the pottery that produced Cornish ware. Well, that's a fun fact. Tenniel was a quiet and introverted person, both as a boy and as an adult. He was content to remain firmly out of the limelight and seemed unaffected by competition or change. His biographer, Rodney Engen, wrote that Tenniel's quote-unquote life and career was that of a supreme gentlemanly outsider, living on the edge of respectability. I like how that sounds when you say it. Living on the edge of respectability. I'm just going to raise my chair. Oh, it's all raised. Okay. I have one of those chairs that goes like this. And then, so like usually what I do is I will put these gigantic clamps from the hardware store around the base of my chair, and then it will keep my seat up. But I didn't do that today. So I might be doing like trying to get back up all day. We'll see. Okay, back to Wikipedia. In 1840, Tenniel was, while practicing fencing, received a serious eye wound from his father's foil, which had accidentally lost its protective tip. Ooh! Eye stuff really grosses me out. Over the years, Tenniel gradually lost sight in his right eye. He never told his father of the severity of the wound, as he did not wish to upset him further. Oh my gosh. Wow. That's intense. That's very intense. What about the doctors? Wait, 1840. Did they know? Let's see. He was born in 1820, so in 1840. So he was 20 years old when he received the serious eye wound. Oh my God. I've had laser surgery on each of my eyeballs. And eye stuff is very scary. I'm good. Thank you. Thank you, universe. Thank you, my protectors. But eye stuff is very scary. Okay. In spite of a tendency towards high art, Tenniel was already known and appreciated as a humorist. His early companionship with Charles Keene fostered his talent for scholarly caricature. Charles Samuel Keene was an English artist and illustrator who worked in black and white. All right, here we go. Black and white, black and white, black and white. Ink work. I love it. Training. Tenniel became a student of the Royal Academy of Arts in 1842 by probation. He was admitted because he made enough copies of classical sculptures to fill the necessary admission portfolio. So it was here that Tenniel returned to his earlier independent education. While Tenniel's more formal training at the Royal Academy and other institutions was beneficial in nurturing his artistic ambitions, he disagreed with the school's teaching methods, and so he set about educating himself. Okay, good for you. He studied classical sculptures through painting. However, he was frustrated in this because he lacked instruction in drawing. Let me read that again. He studied classical sculptures through painting. However, he was frustrated because he lacked instruction in drawing. Tenniel, I had to absorb that. Tenniel would draw the classical statues at London's Townley Gallery, copy illustrations from books of costumes and armor in the British Museum, and draw animals from the zoo in Regent's Park, as well as actors from London theatres, which he drew from the pits. I wonder if back in the day, like just sitting outside and drawing was not a cool thing to do. Because if he's looking for people to draw, why didn't he just like go sit on some stairs and draw people? It doesn't say that he did that. And it makes me feel like maybe that was not like cool to do back then. So he drew animals. He drew costumes and armor in the British Museum. He drew animals in the zoo at Regent's Park. He drew actors in London theater, and they're on stage. So, you know, fair game, right? They're public. They're acting in public. So perhaps I'm just sort of surmising here that maybe it was not socially acceptable to draw people just like be a urban sketcher. I don't know. Just thinking out loud here. That's what we do. Okay. Though he had a photographic memory, wow, good for you. It undermined his early formal training and restricted his artistic ambitions. Wait a minute. Okay, I skipped a sentence. These studies, all of his, attempts at drawing people from life and stuff, these studies taught Tenniel to love detail, yet he became impatient in his work and was happiest when he could draw from memory. Okay. Though he had a photographic memory, it undermined his early formal training and restricted his artistic ambitions. Wait a minute. The studies undermined his formal training, or his memory drawing? I don't know. I think I'm just thinking out loud here. These studies taught Tenniel to love detail. Okay. I need to reread that later, like in a different context than reading here, to fully grasp what that is trying to say. Another formal means of training was Tenniel's participation in an artist group, free from the rules of the academy that were stifling him. In the mid-1840s, he joined the Artists' Society of Clipstone Street Life Academy, and it could be said that Tenniel first emerged there as a satirical draughtsman. Tenniel's first book illustration, early career, Tenniel's first book illustration was for Samuel Carter Hall's The Book of British Ballads in 1842. Let's take a look at Samuel Carter Hall. He was an Irish-born Victorian journalist who is best known for his editorship of the Art Journal and for his much satirized personality. Okay, so he was a personality that was in, like a celebrity. Hey, Megan, how you doing? Welcome, welcome. We're in the middle of John Tenniel, and we're going to keep going. While engaged with his first book illustrations, remember this is his first book, various contests were taking place in London as a way in which the government could combat the growing Germanic Nazarene style. This is the Nazarene style. The epithet Nazarene was adopted by a group of early 19th century German Romantic painters who aimed to revive spirituality in art. The name Nazarene came from a term of derision used against them for their affectation of a biblical manner of clothing, blah, 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 blah. Okay? So Nazarene is a term that they threw on them, kind of religious term to, and actually it sounds like they did not they kind of meant it in a little bit of a derogatory way, it sounds like. And promote a truly national English school of art. Okay, I'm going to read that one more time. Tenniel's first book illustration was for Samuel Carter Hall's The Book of British Ballads in 1842. While engaged with his first book illustrations, various contests were taking place in London as a way in which the government could combat the growing Germanic Nazarene style and promote a truly national English school of art. Okay, so they're looking for their own style. They're like, I don't want, this is like infiltrating us, and we don't want that. We want to encourage people to, create our own special English School of Art style. Tenniel planned to enter the 1845 House of Lords competition amongst artists to win the opportunity to design the mural decoration of the new Palace of Westminster. Despite missing the deadline, oh no way. He submitted a 16-foot, oh my gosh. He submitted a 16-foot, 4.9 meter cartoon, An Allegory of Justice, to a competition for designs for the mural decoration of the new Palace of Westminster. And this is the Palace of Westminster. You can pause and read if you would like. For this, he received a £200, right, premium and a commission to paint a fresco in the upper waiting hall, or Hall of Poets, in the House of Lords. Okay. So he missed the deadline. He submitted a 16-foot cartoon to a competition, and he got it. He received a £200 premium and a commission to paint. I don't know what premium means. Is that a advance, or is that the entire amount that he got? It doesn't click through, because, you have to look at it in context of the times. Like, what does premium mean in context of pound currency in the late 1800s, or mid 1800s, and a commission to paint a fresco in the upper waiting hall, or Hall of Poets, in the House of Lords. So the House of Lords was this. It's an upper house of the Parliament of the United Kingdom. All right, so we got to do a mural there. Okay, so he did a cartoon. I wonder what it looked like. Because it couldn't have been like one of his like acerbic cartoons, It had to be something that was like, okay, let's just keep reading. Because I could sit here and speculate all day on that. And as Wikipedia does, it's going to tell me in the very next paragraph what I'm questioning. Punch is the next section. As the influential result of his position as the chief cartoon artist for Punch, Tenniel remained a witness to Britain's sweeping changes. He furthered political and social reform through satirical, often radical, and at times vitriolic images of the world. At Christmas 1850, he was invited by Mark Lemon to fill the position of joint cartoonist with John Leech on Punch, having been selected on the strength of recent illustrations to Aesop's Fables. So he illustrated Aesop's Fables in a book. And they're like, okay, cool. We like your work. I'm going to go back and I'm going to show you what Punch is. Because Wikipedia just took us on a ride. Like, we were like, wait a minute. You didn't mention Punch before, except for the first paragraph of this whole thing. So Punch, or the London Charivari, was a British weekly magazine of humor and satire established in 1841 by Henry Mayhew and woodgraver Ebenezer Landells. Historically, it was the most influential in the 1840s and 1850s when it helped coin the term cartoon in its modern sense. And then blah, 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 blah. There's more information, and you can go and read it if you would like. And then at Christmas 1850, when he was invited by Mark Lemon to fill the position of joint cartoonist on Punch. Mark Lemon, is he the publisher? Founding editor of both Punch and The Field. He was also a writer of plays and verses. Okay, so he gave him a job. And then John Leech was a British caricaturist and illustrator, and he was best known for his work on Punch the humorous magazine for a broad middle-class audience, combining verbal and graphic. We already know this. Political satire with light social comedy. Okay, so he was the cartoonist for Punch, and then Tenniel came in and became the joint cartoonist. So are they co-cartoonists? I wonder what their relationship was like. He contributed his first drawing in the initial letter appearing on page 224, volume XIX. So that's volume 9, right? No, wait. Wait. Is that volume 9? XIX. X is 10. IX, I think that's 9 because I think you subtract the I before the X. Anyway, okay. So that's all right. We can leave that up to to a question mark. This was entitled Lord Jack the Giant Killer and showed Lord John Russell assailing Cardinal Wiseman. Okay. Tenniel's first characteristic lion appeared in 1852, as did his first obituary cartoon. Whoa, he did an obituary cartoon. Okay. Cheers. Gradually, he took over altogether the weekly drawing of the political big cut, which Leech was happy to cede to Tenniel in order to restrict himself to pictures of life and character. Okay, so sounds like it was a good relationship from here. Which I was kind of thinking he's either going to be like competitive or he's going to be like, please, please take this part of my job away from me because it's too much for me or I don't want to do it or whatever. Sounds like it was the latter, so that's good. In 1861, Tenniel was offered Leech's position at Punch as a political cartoonist, but Tenniel still maintained a sense of decorum and restraint in the heated social and political issues of the day. When Leech died in 1864, Tenniel continued their work alone, rarely missing a single week. Okay. So he did it for them both. All right. All right. His task was to follow the willful choices of his Punch editors, who probably took their cue from the Times. Let's look at the Times real quick. We want to see what the Times is. Context is everything, right? The Times is a British daily national newspaper based in London. It began in 1785 under the title The Daily Universal Register, adopting its modern name on 1 January 1788. That's when it started being called the Times. The Times and its sister paper, the Sunday Times, are published by Times Media since 1981, a blah, 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 blah. Okay. So his task was to follow the willful choices of his Punch editor. So they told him what to do. They're like, here, take this. And this is the, this is our point of view. And run with it, creatively. Who probably took their cue from the Times and would have felt the suggestions of political tensions from Parliament as well. Okay. So they're like, what's the word I'm looking for? They are, I want to say massageable, but that's not the right word. That's not the right word. Not the right word, but okay. You know what I'm trying to say here. Tenniel okay, where are we? We'll get there. Tenniel's work could be scathing in effect. The restlessness in the issues of working class radicalism, labor, war, economy, and other national themes were the targets of Punch, which in turn settled the nature of Tenniel's subjects. His cartoons of the 1860s popularized a portrait of the Irishman as a subhuman being. What? Wanton in his appetites and resembling an orangutan in facial features and posture. What? I'm reading that again. His cartoons of the 1860s popularized a portrait of the Irishman. Oh my gosh! Okay. My apologies. I love Irish people. I absolutely love Irish people. I absolutely love Ireland. This does not represent my viewpoint. This is disgusting. I'm horrified. Yeah, okay. All right, okay. All right. I'm going to read it. You guys can read this. Many of Tenniel. Okay, I missed this. But this is actually part of what's nice about reading these is we get to find out about this stuff. So I don't want to sugarcoat it. This does not in any way, shape, or form. I'm just grossed out right now. Yuck, dude. Okay. Strong hostility to Irish nationalisms. So here's a good example. Although, okay, all right. If we back up here, his task was to follow the willful. That doesn't make it right. That does not excuse the work he did. No, at all. But Wikipedia chose to tell us it was important enough for them to add this. His task was to follow the willful choices of his Punch editors, who probably took their cue from the Times and would have felt the suggestions of political tensions from Parliament as well. I'm glad that I absorbed that, because if I had just skimmed that and then came down to this, I'd be like, it doesn't make it right, does not make it right. Okay. Okay. With Fenians and land leagues, this is important for us to know, because we do not want to repeat this stuff. And, you know, it's a good question, because I'm glad I mentioned at the top about the problematic artist stream that I did. And it's like, it's a question for the times, separating the art from the artist. And I don't have an answer. I think we all have different answers at different times. And I think we always look to what's going on, like, because it's always a question that just pops up again and again and again. And, I mean, what can I say about this? I'm one person with one opinion, but it's important that people, you know, it is important that people know that these things happened. You know, and I feel weird reading it, and I am not agreeing with this at all. I'm grossed out right now, and it's hard. I actually eliminated one of my artists from my list because very similar, because he was also an illustrator and a cartoonist, a huge cartoonist. You might know the name. I actually forget the name off the top of my head, but he also did this type of cartoons, and that's why I decided the day before to not do him. But if I had actually like read this before, then I'm not sure if I would have done him, because I don't want to like edit out parts of people's lives, because I think we need to see the big picture, right? But also it's like, I also don't want to platform stuff, but I'm not platforming anything in a positive light, because I don't believe in this at all. It's disgusting and horrific, and, you know, what can I say? I'm disgusted, but let's see. All right, let's keep reading, because maybe we'll get to something where there's some justice here. With Fenians and land leagues depicted as monstrous ape-like brutes, while Hibernia, the personification of Ireland. Hibernia is the national personification of Ireland, so it's like Hibernia was a symbol. Like a symbol in human form. Maybe like Statue of Liberty-ish. She appeared in numerous cartoons and drawings, in particular during the 19th century, okay? While Hibernia, the personification of Ireland, was depicted as a beautiful, helpless girl threatened by such monsters and turning for protection to an elder sister in the shape of a powerful armored Britannia. Okay. Well, this is actually... good I didn't know this, and I know that there's always had this ongoing sort of feud thing back in the day. So this is just giving us more history to learn about, really. and to look into further if we want to. And we probably should, because it's, I don't know enough about that. An Unequaled Match, his drawing published in Punch on October 8th, 1881, depicted a police officer fighting a criminal with only a baton for protection, trying to put a point across to the public that policing methods need to be changed. When examined separately from the book illustrations he did over time, Tenniel's work at Punch alone, expressing decades of editorial viewpoints, often controversial and socially sensitive, was created to echo the voices of the British public. I'm just absorbing this. I'm going to read that one more time. When examined separately from the book illustrations he did over time, Tenniel's work at Punch alone, expressing decades of editorial viewpoints, often controversial and socially sensitive, was created to echo the voices of the British public. Tenniel drew 2,165 cartoons for Punch, a liberal and politically active publication that mirrored the Victorians' public mood for liberal social changes. Thus, Tenniel, in his cartoons, represented for years the conscience of the British majority. Okay. Tenniel contributed around 2,300 cartoons, innumerable minor drawings, and many double-page cartoons for Punch's Almanac and other specials, and 250 designs for Punch's pocketbooks. By 1866, he could, quote-unquote, command 10 to 15 guineas for the reworking of a single Punch cartoon as a pencil sketch, alongside his comfortable Punch salary of about £800 a year, which I read somewhere that equated to a lot of money. I don't know if this is correct or not, but I read somewhere that it equated to like $100,000. Hold on a second. Okay. £1 British pound in 1800, which I know was not the time we're talking about this second. We're talking about like later 1800s, but that's what I just typed into Google. £1 British pound in 1800 had the approximate purchasing power of 10,704.27 pounds in 2025, which is equivalent to approximately $14,000 in US dollars in 2025, based on current exchange rates. So 14,000 times 800, right? All right, let's get out of here. Okay. We're back to reading now. So he was actually, and something I was reading or listening to before coming on today, he was very well off from his art, like from his artwork career. He was doing very well. Alice, here we go. Despite the thousands of political cartoons and hundreds of illustrative works attributed to him, much of Tenniel's fame stems from his illustrations for Alice. Tenniel drew 92 drawings for Lewis Carroll's Alice's Adventures in Wonderland, London Macmillan, 1865, and Through the Looking Glass and What Alice Found There, London Macmillan, 1871, 6 years later. Lewis Carroll originally illustrated Wonderland himself, but his artistic abilities were limited. Engraver Orlando Jewett, who had worked for Carroll in 1859 and reviewed Carroll's drawings for Wonderland, suggested that he employ a professional. Carroll was a regular reader of Punch and therefore familiar with Tenniel, who in 1865 had long talks with Carroll before illustrating the first edition of Alice's Adventures in Wonderland. Okay. The first print run of 2000 was sold in the United States rather than England because Tenniel objected to the print quality. Okay. So the first print run was sold in the United States because Tenniel objected to the print quality. Sometimes I have to read it, absorb, and then we go back Let's read again. Okay. A new edition was released in December 1865, carrying an 1866 date, and became an instant bestseller, increasing Tenniel's fame. His drawings for both books have become some of the most famous literary illustrations. Carroll did later approach Tenniel to undertake another project for him. To this, Tenniel replied, "It is a curious fact that with Looking Glass, the faculty of making drawings for book illustrations departed from me, and I have done nothing in that direction since." I'm absorbing here. It is a curious fact that with Looking Glass, the faculty of making drawings for book illustrations departed from me, and I have done nothing. Okay, he didn't want to do it, I guess. That is what it sounds like. It sounds like he did not want to do it. And, you know, he didn't have to either, because he was in a position, you know. He was in a position really in every way. I mean, people were probably knocking his door down to do stuff, you know. Whatever he wanted. Tenniel, okay, maybe I'm glossing over. I'm sure it wasn't all perfect, but, you know, he was in a good position, right? Career-wise, let's just say. Tenniel's Alice illustrations were engraved onto blocks of deal wood by the brothers Dalziel. Let's look at the brothers Dalziel for a moment. Was a prolific wood engraving business in Victorian London, founded in 1839 by George Dalziel. Okay. These then served as masters for the electrotype copies for the actual printing of the books. The original wood blocks are held in the Bodleian Library in Oxford. They are not usually on public display, but were exhibited in 2003. Wow, those would be wild to see. I wonder if there's pictures of them anywhere. The Bodleian Library is a main research library of the University of Oxford, founded in 1602 by Sir Thomas Bodley. It is one of the oldest libraries in Europe, with over 13 million printed items. It is the second largest library in Britain after the British Library. Okay, soundbite. And you can always read more if you just go to the Wikipedia page for John Tenniel and click on Bodleian Library, which I'm having trouble pronouncing. The bronze Alice in Wonderland sculpture, 1959, in Central Park in Manhattan, New York City, is patterned on his illustrations. Okay, so he has a sculpture in Central Park. I have not seen that. Or have I seen it and I forgot? I've been to Central Park a few times. I don't remember the sculpture, though. But, you know, Central Park is so gigantic. I may not have seen it. Very, very likely may not have seen it. Okay. Style. Influence of German Nazarenes. The style associated with the Nazarene movement of the 19th century influenced many later artists, including Tenniel. It can be characterized as shaded outlines, where the lines on the side figures or objects are given extra thickness, or drawn double to suggest shading or volume. Furthermore, this style is extremely precise, with the artist making a hard, clear outline for its figures, dignifying them and the compositions, while giving restraint and expression and paleness of tone. Though Tenniel's early illustrations in the Nazarene style were not well received, his encounter with the style pointed him in a good direction. Okay, cool. Eye for detail. After the 1850s, Tenniel's style was modernized to incorporate more detail in the backgrounds and in figures. I'm going to try and raise my chair real quick. Hold on one second. I think I sunk. I think I sunk a little bit. Okay, that's better. Okay, where are we? Tenniel's more precisely designed illustrations. Okay. Okay, taking a breath. Eye for detail. We're going to just go back into this. I'm not sure if I read this a minute ago or not. Eye for detail. After the 1850s, Tenniel's style was modernized to incorporate more detail in the backgrounds and in figures. Yes. The inclusion, The inclusion of background details corrected the previously weak Germanic staging of his illustrations. Tenniel's more precisely designed illustrations depicted specific moments of time, locale, and individual character instead of just generalized scenes. In addition to a change in specificity of background, Tenniel developed a new interest in human types, expressions, and individualized representation, something that would carry over into his illustrations of Wonderland, referred to by many as theatricality. Oh my gosh, I said that right on the first try. This hallmark of Tenniel's style probably stemmed from his earlier interest in caricature. In Tenniel's first years on Punch, he developed this caricaturist's interest in the uniqueness of persons and things, almost giving a human-like personality to the objects in the environment. For example, a comparison of one of John Everest Millay's illustrations of a girl in a chair with Tenniel's illustration of Alice in a chair shows that Millay's chair is just a prop, whereas Tenniel's chair possesses a menacing and towering presence. Yeah, right. So I get this. So he anthropomorphized things and gave them a little bit of a lurid, is lurid the right word? Gave them a menacing. Did they say menacing? Is that where I got menacing from? A menacing, kind of adult-ish. Yeah, they did say menacing. Menacing and towering presence. Okay. Okay, so Sir John Everest Millais was an English painter and illustrator who was one of the founders of the Pre-Raphaelite Brotherhood. We've talked about that before. He was a child prodigy who, aged 11, became the youngest student to enter the Royal Academy schools. Wow. 11. Wow. Okay. Another change in, we're talking back to John Tenniel. Another change in style was his shaded lines. These transformed from mechanical horizontal lines to vigorously hand-drawn hatching that greater intensified darker areas. Wait a minute. I do wish we had dates after the after the 1850s. He was like 30, right? Because he was born in 1820, so he was like 30. Okay, hold on. Oh, actually, while we're here, let's look at this. Isn't that cool? I'm going to read you the blurb on that. Hold on. Oh. The blurb is Chapter 12, Alice's Evidence, MS, Manuscript in English, Sir John Tenniel. Studies for illustrations to Alice's Adventures in Wonderland drawings, tracings. Circa 1864. Okay, 34 years old. From Houghton Library, Harvard University. Oh, this is at Harvard? Wow, cool. Yeah, look at this. Beautiful. That's a beautiful sketch. I wonder if those are on display. Okay. Hold on. I'm so sorry, but I have to click in here. Houghton Library is on the south side of Harvard Yard. Is it open to the public? Tell me. Is it open to the public? Okay, I don't know. I'm going to have to look into that because that's close to me. So I could go and look at those in person if it's open to the public and if they're on display. That would be awesome. All right. Zooming down. Okay, hold on. Here we go. Where are we? Eye for detail. Okay. Looked at that. Okay, I just got to get back to my spot again. Did this. Okay. Yeah. All right. We're down to grotesque. So forgive me for losing my place. Here we are. Grotesque. Tenniel's quote unquote grotesque was one reason why Lewis Carroll wanted Tenniel as an illustrator for the Alice books, in the sense of imparting a disturbing sense that the real world may have ceased to be reliable. Wow, that's a big one. Tenniel's style was characteristically grotesque through his dark, atmospheric compositions of exaggerated fantasy creatures carefully drawn in outline. Often the mechanism was used to use forgive me for that. I just lost my tongue somewhere in the mix there. Often the mechanism was to use animal heads on recognizable human bodies or vice versa. And Gransville had done, let's look at who Gransville is. Okay, we're going to look at him in a minute. Let me finish this sentence first. Often the mechanism was to use animal heads on recognizable human bodies, or vice versa, as Granville had done in the Parisian satirical journal Charivari. Let's look at Granville. He was a prolific French illustrator and caricaturist who published under the pseudonym of Grandville and numerous variations throughout his career. Art historians and critics have called him the first star of French caricature's great age. And I wish they told us his age. Like, when was this guy around? 1803 to 1847. Okay, that's good. That's all I needed. All right. In Tenniel's illustrations, his grotesque is found also in mergers of beings and things, deformities and in violence to the human body. Example, when Alice drinks the potion and grows huge. Okay. And a proclivity to deal with ordinary things of this world while presenting such phenomena. Okay. The most noticeably grotesque is Tenniel's famous Jabberwock drawing in Alice. Okay. The most noticeably grotesque is Tenniel's Jabberwock drawing in Alice. I'm going totally rogue here. And we're going to see if we can find it on the Google. Okay, here it is, the Jabberwock. Okay, hold on. This is the Jabberwock. The Jabberwock as illustrated by John Tenniel. Wait a minute, how come you can't see that? What's going on here? Oh, hold on. Oh, hold on. Something happened here. What's going on here? Why can you not see this page? I'm going to fix your page. Don't worry. I'm going to fix it. That's why. Okay. All right. Let's do that instead. Okay. Thanks for bearing with me. Sorry about that. There it is. And let's go back to what we were doing because I don't want to lose my page again. Okay. The Alice illustrations combine. Okay, we're at the top of the page now. The Alice illustrations combine fantasy and reality. Scholars such as Morris trace Tenniel's stylistic change to the 1850s trends toward realism. Let's read that again. Scholars such as Morris trace Tenniel's stylistic change to the late 1850s trend towards realism. For the grotesque to operate, quote unquote, it is our world which has to be transformed and not some fantasy realm. The illustrations constantly but subtly remind us of the real world, as do some of Tenniel's scenes, derived from a medieval town, the portico of a Georgian town, or the checked jacket of the White Rabbit. Additionally, Tenniel closely follows Carroll's text so that the reader sees the similitudes between the written text and the illustrations. These touches of realism help to convince readers that all these seemingly grotesque inhabitants of Wonderland are simply themselves, simply real, not just performing. Okay, let's absorb this. I'm absorbing all this. I really liked that paragraph. That told me a lot of information. Image and text in Alice. One unusual aspect of the Alice books is the placing of Tenniel's illustrations on the pages. The physical relation of illustrations to text meshes them together, Carroll and Tenniel expressed this in various ways. One was bracketing. Two relevant sentences would bracket an image in a way of imparting the moment that Tenniel was trying to illustrate. This bracketing of Tenniel's pictures with text adds to their dramatic immediacy. However, other, less frequent illustrations work with the texts as captions. Another link between illustration and text is the use of broader and narrower illustrations. Broader ones are meant to be centered on the page, narrower to be let in or run flush to the margin alongside the narrow column of continuing text. So this is really interesting in terms of like how they designed it. This is explaining how they thought it all out, and I love that. Because it shows that they were really thinking about this, and it wasn't just aesthetic decisions. It was decisions on how people are absorbing and like, accepting the story with the art, like the combination. This is really cool. Still, words run in parallel with the depiction of those things. For example, when Alice says, "Oh, my poor little feet," it not only occurs at the foot of the page, but it is right next to her feet in the illustration. Some of these narrower illustrations are L-shaped and of great importance as some of his most memorable work. The top or base of these illustrations run the full width of the page, but the other end leaves room for one side of text. So, hold on. The top or base of these illustrations runs the full width of the page. The top or base. But the other end leaves room for one on one side for text. Okay, I would have to see these. Maybe we should look at if we go to Gutenberg Project, they might have these books. I would just like to see an example of what, and I think I might even have one in the slideshow, but it's really challenging to illustrate stuff like this. I mean, to design stuff like this, because you have to design it like every change pushes everything. So everything, like the only wiggle room, the place that you would have wiggle room with the design of the pages is in the illustrations. So if you had like a little bit of extra space, you would have to say, okay, can you change the illustration on the next spread, please, to like fill in this extra space, please, because we have this extra space now after designing the previous page this way. I just find this like, wow, that they did it like this. But I would have to look at the book and like fully like, sponge it all in to like fully like dissect, because it's really interesting to me. I was a designer for like a legit designer. Like what I mean is by that is a lot of the work I did was pure design. That's not true, because I always add my illustrations in, or like some illustrative factors in, but more than I do now. Like now I illo design and designo straight, but which is like more of like a merge, but thinking about the two like in tandem all the time. But when I worked for a company doing design, it was like designing. I think when you're in the design mindset, like laying out, editorial text or whatever you're laying out, a magazine design or something that's pure like puzzle piecey, and you're thinking about all these things. You're thinking about how a viewer's gonna how you're gonna go into the page and what's gonna lead you to what when you're reading or looking, you know what I mean? Like all these questions, it's so much psychology that goes into it, and things that you're thinking about. And so it's fascinating. I find it very fascinating. And it really scratches an itch in my brain. Like it scratches a little itch in there that's like, feed me. You know what I mean? So, okay. Let's go down. Book illustrations, a selected list. Entirely by Tenniel is this list. Tenniel's different collabs is this list. Let's scroll down. We're going to look at his retirement and death. An ultimate tribute came to an elderly Tenniel as he was knighted for public service in 1893 by Queen Victoria. So if he was born in 1820, that made him 73 when he got the knightship, if that's the correct terminology. It was the first such honor ever bestowed on an illustrator or cartoonist. His fellows, that's amazing. His fellows saw his knighthood as gratitude for raising what had been a fairly low profession to an unprecedented level of respectability. With his knighthood, Tenniel elevated the social status of the black and white illustrator and sparked a new sense of recognition of his profession. When he retired in January 1901, Tenniel was honored with a farewell banquet on June 12th, at which Arthur Balfour, then leader of the House of Commons, let's just real quick, House of Commons, Minister of the Crown of the Government of the United Kingdom, whose main role is organizing the government into businesses of the House of Commons. Okay, so political guy. Then leader of the House of Commons presided and described Tenniel as a great artist and a great gentleman. Tenniel died of natural causes at age 93 at his home in West Kensington, London on 25 February 1914. Tenniel's funeral was held on 2 March 1914, and he was buried in Kensal Green Cemetery, London. Legacy. The Punch historian M.H. Spielman, who knew Tenniel, wrote that the political clout contained in his Punch illustrations was capable of swaying parties and people, too. 2 days after his death, the Daily Graphic recalled how Tenniel had an influence on the political feeling of this time, which is hardly measurable. While Tenniel was drawing them, his subjects, we always looked to the Punch cartoon to crystallize the national and international situation and the popular feeling about it, and never looked in vain. So his work really was the it was encapsulated the general population's feelings on things. I guess he had a sixth sense about it in terms of his concepts and the things he would come up with for his cartoons. 2 days after his death, wait a minute. Okay. There we go. The social influence resulted from the weekly publishing of his political cartoons over 50 years, whereby Tenniel's fame allowed for a want and need for his particular illustrative work. Wait, let me start that over again, okay? If you don't mind. This social influence resulted from the weekly publishing of his political cartoons over 50 years, whereby Tenniel's fame allowed for a want and need for his particular illustrative work away from the newspaper. Tenniel became not only one of Victorian Britain's most published illustrators, but as a Punch cartoonist, one of the supreme social observers of British society and an integral component of a powerful journalistic force. The New York Tribune journalist George W. Smalley referred to John Tenniel in 1914 as one of the greatest intellectual forces of his time who understood social laws and political energies. Okay, so I'm totally vibing that John Tenniel was he was like a conduit. He was like a electrical charge. So he was like the in-between, right? He was like the medium, the creative medium for like a psychic medium. He was like the medium of, you know, getting the finger on the pulse, right? Of this is, right? What people are, how people are feeling, what they're thinking, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Public exhibitions of Sir John Tenniel's work were held in 1895 and 1900. Tenniel was also the author of one of the mosaics, Leonardo da Vinci, in the South Court in the Victoria and Albert Museum. His stippled watercolor drawings appeared from time to time in the exhibitions of the Royal Institute of Painters in Watercolors, to which he had been elected in 1874. Tenniel Close, a Bayswater Street near his former studio, is named after him. In 2025, a commemorative plaque was installed on the exterior of Tenniel's house in West Kensington. The plaque, which had been commissioned in 1930 by London County Council, was originally, let's look at that. London County Council was the principal local government body for the County of London throughout its existence from 1889 to 1965. Principal local government body for the County of London. Okay. All right. The plaque, which had been commissioned in 1930 by the London County Council, was originally placed on his house in Malta Vale, but was removed when that building was demolished in the 1950s. After 65 years in storage, the plaque was restored and rehung by English Heritage. Okay. Do we have anything left to read? We have references. Okay. Let's look at some of his work. Alice Playing with Puppy. Alice in Wonderland, 1865. This is the Fenian Guy Fawkes, 1867. Punch cartoon referring to the Clerkenwell explosion. Sorry. This is the Jabberwock from the poem Jabberwocky in Through the Looking Glass, 1871. Two Forces, 1881 Punch cartoon opposing the Irish National Land League. Davy Jones' Locker, 1892 Punch cartoon. Oh my God. Dropping the Pilot, 1890 Punch cartoon commenting on Otto von Bismarck's dismissal. Okay. Oh, that's creepy. The Nemesis of Neglect. There floats a phantom on the slum's foul air, shaping two eyes which have the gift of seeing into the spectre of that loathly lair. Face it, for vain is fleeing, red-handed, ruthless, furtive, unerect, the murderous crime, the nemesis of neglect. 1888 Punch cartoon commenting on the Jack the Ripper murders. That is just chilling. A Christmas Puzzle, Father Christmas. Now, my little man, where's your stocking? Punch, 1895. Oh. I like that depiction of Santa. It's super folky. And this is a portrait of him. Caption and source read Sir John Tenniel, R.I. from pen drawing by himself. Awesome. He drew this. I love it. Good portrait. John Tenniel Conspiracy, oil on panel, August 1850. Also painted. A cartoon by Tenniel on the subject of the 1867 Lambeth Conference. A Pan-Anglican washing day. Chorus of old washerwomen. There, take 'em away. We can't be worrited with them things. If the 75 members of this Pan-Anglican Synod have not a single word to say upon any of the great questions, theoretical or practical, which concern the very existence of the Church of England, their impotent caution and misplaced decency will do more to endanger it than any external attack with which it at present thread ends. Okay, cool. The Irish Vampire. Okay. Charles Stewart Parnell depicted as a vampire menacing maid in Ireland. Okay. Back to this whole thing. I don't know enough about this political stuff to even comment. I'm sort of regretting like my knee jerk just because I don't know the picture of what was going on. So please take that into consideration. Like I just don't, I can't, I cannot comment on this, but I will say that this is a very effective cartoon with the I always think bats are a really great icon. Okay. Caterpillar using a hookah. An illustration from Alice's Adventures in Wonderland. And we looked at this earlier. Okay, so we're going to draw. If you would like to look at some more illustrations, there is a link to Wikimedia Commons. There is a link to the Wikipedia that we just read. And there's, I think, a couple of other links in that I put in. There's a video that is like tells his story. And yeah, there's more information in the description if you want to look into this guy some more. Yeah, so let's draw. So I am gonna do a picture of the white rabbit, I think, because that was sort of what jumped out at me when I was looking through this group of work here. And hold on a second. This is it. This is the white rabbit. So we're going to draw this today. And I'm going to set up, let me go back here. So thanks for hanging in with me. I'm going to set up my table over here and get ready over here, over there, and get ready to draw this picture of the white rabbit. Not this picture of Alice, but this picture, the picture of the white rabbit. And I will be back and I will see you in a couple of minutes. Okay, bye. Hey, here I am. Hey. I think I want to draw with a stick. I want to draw with the stick. I want to draw with a stick. Let's see if this works out. It could be a dismal failure. I don't know, but we're going to give it a shot. Oh. If you did not see how I finished yesterday's art, hey, let's stamp it. Let's stamp the back of it too, because I didn't do that yet. I didn't date it. Oh, wait a minute. Is today? Yes. Today is the 20th. Yesterday was the 19th. So let's do 19. And there we go. And here's yesterday's. We did this fabulous gentleman yesterday. This was Henry Asawa Tanner. This is Henry Asawa Tanner. And I kept saying, I'm going to do a quote. I'm going to do a quote around his head, and I didn't do it. Now I'm thinking, maybe I'll just leave him. I didn't want to rush through it, so I don't ever want to like do art, do like addition to my art if I'm not like mentally ready to do it. And I had already spent like a couple hours on this guy, and I felt like I needed to go have lunch and have a little bit of a break before I moved forward with it. And that wasn't just not going to make it onto the stream, so I didn't do lettering on him. I still have the quote that I want to do, and I know how I would do it. It was just really a question of just like me being tired. So I opted out from doing the quote, but we do have, I was going to do, you know, quote around his head like I like to do. And I didn't do it. And the same thing happened when we did this guy. Same thing happened over here with our friend. What's your name again? I know your name, Edward Lear. I know your name. Don't you try and get me to forget your name. I'm just kidding. Oh, yes. So that happened with Edward Lear, too. Okay. But today we're going to do the White Rabbit. And, you know, I have a quote that I'm going to do. I'm late if I want to, but I don't know if I want to do that. And the picture is right there. So let's just test out this whole ink with a stick thing and see. I don't know. I was just inspired. I really like these little sticks. So I had a little project that I did a few years ago where I bought a bunch of these papers. I bought a bunch of these little rainbow papers, and I did little stick drawings on them, and it was really fun, and I made a lot of reels. I made a lot of reels with these, and I ended up making some stickers out of them. I do have a You Belong Here sticker. I made a sticker of this, but I made an error in it, so I had to get rid of it. Yeah, so these are just some of these that I did, and I still feel like there's more I want to do with these, but I just, you know, we're not there yet. I think they're just kind of marinating somewhere. They're marinating in my brain somewhere. I don't know. I like to let things, you know, marinate sometimes. And then, you know, they come back. Things come back. They're going to come back. In a couple years, they'll be like, hey, remember me? Okay, let's start on the rabbit. I don't know if this is going to work. Why am I doing this? I don't know. Maybe I should look for my nibs. My pen nibs. And holder, where's that? Where's my pen nibs and holder? You know, or we could just draw with a pipette. We could do that too. We could try this. I don't know if this is actually... I think this isn't going to work because now that I'm looking at it, I'm like, well, no, I'm probably not going to work. Let's do... Oh, you know what I could do? Let's do like a drop. Let's do a drop and then just like pull it. Does that work? I think we should just have some fun today. Should we use a little brush? Guess who didn't make a plan? Oh my gosh, look, I just accidentally dumped my brush in my paint, so maybe we'll just do this, right? Let's do this. I don't think I gave him enough room though. I don't think I gave him enough room. Maybe we'll draw him twice. We'll do like a sketch. We'll just do this. And then this is like our rough, this is our little roughie here. I'm going to zoom you a little bit because there we go. Because I think that might be better for you. This is freeing, I have to say. See, we're gonna lose some of our rabbit. excuse me. Hey, thanks for hearting. Thank you for hearting, hearty person. Megan, thank you, my friend. Okay, hold on. This is just super loose today. I think I just needed something loose. I've been doing like, I think I've been putting pressure on myself. Not, you know, not like on purpose or anything, but I just need to loosen up a little bit. Excuse me. Not like intentionally. Not like intentional pressure. Just like the kind of natural, it just happens like that sometimes. And it's okay, but I don't want it right now. Pressure. I'm late. I'm gonna go back to brush land. This type of brush land. And I think this one is going to be loosey-goosey, and I don't think this one is going to last for 2 hours either. I'm going to zoom you out a little bit. I think yesterday I went for 2 hours. I was actually shocked. I was honestly, I was a bit shocked at how long I spent on yesterday. Not like shocked in a bad way or anything, just shocked. Just like, what happened? What happened? Where did the time go? Sometimes it's nice to draw with something that, like, in a way like this, that's just not... Oops. Sorry. My husband was trying to call me. I'm gonna text him real quick. Give me 1 second. I'm going to turn the volume off for a quick sec. Oh, actually, forget it. I don't have to. I'm okay. I'm okay. I thought I was going to have to turn. Okay, good. All set. I'm late for let's go into this brush land, shall we? For a very important date. Let's do it. Story of my sister's life, Megan says. I'm late for a very important date. Oh my gosh. I'm late. I'm late for a very important stream. Is that me every morning? I'm late for a very important date with you guys. I'm late. Okay. Let's see here. Let's make very important big. Very. Oh, cool, Megan. Megan says, I followed you on Instagram. Cool. I'm going to look and see where you are. Are you, if you're able to follow, I will follow you back. Like, what I mean is if you're not, you know, on a private or something. If you're not privated, like, I don't allow followers or whatever. And I'm just gonna do that. How's that? We're not getting picky today. Import. I need to cut myself some slack. You know, this is like something that I really enjoy doing, and it's definitely a commitment, but I super enjoy it, and it's important for me to just sometimes not, you know, feel pressure. And, you know, I choose these people for reasons like, for whatever reason, you know, like I'm interested, or they need to have more eyeballs, or whatever, right? And then it's just like, and then it's like, I feel like, what's the word I'm looking for? A responsibility. And then I have like a responsibility, you know? And so, you know, sometimes that can be a little pressury, but I will say that with John Tenniel, I knew I wasn't going to do a portrait. Portraits are, you know, that's like, oh my gosh, I hope I can capture the person or whatever. But I knew I wanted to do something. I love the pen and ink, right? So I love all his pen and ink work. But I was like, I really want to do something that is going to be, you know, encapsulated. So it's not, you know, something that I'm going to be working on for 3 hours. So that is why I chose this little bunny rabbit here. And then to just add to it, to add to that vibe, I'm like, hey, I want to draw with a stick. That didn't work out. But then I was like, hey, I'm going to pour some ink in this little pan here. And then I accidentally threw my brush in it, and I'm like, hey, let's just use the brush. Because, like, yeah, I could go searching for my nib pen. But guess what? I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that. Because why? Maybe I just didn't, I think I just didn't feel like it. Or something. Right? Just didn't feel like it. Let's just do some like loose, super duper loose today, and just have some fun. Super loose and fun. And I like to use this ink as a little bit of a shadow because it's not waterproof. So let's use that. Let's use that as like a benefit, you know? Let's use it as like a part of the process, a part of the art. Let's use it. Let's use it to our advantage, shall we? Let's take lemons and make lemonade. That's what I say. That's what I'm doing here today. I'm late for a very important... Oh, I forgot the word date. I gotta write the word date in there. Date. D-A-T. Yeah. I was going to say D-A-T-E. No. Let's just do... Oh, this pen is going to drip everywhere. Let's not use that one. For a very important D. Let's do a little d. A-T-E. And then we'll do... Then we'll write Lewis Carroll. Lewis Carroll. I'm gonna. Oh wait, oh. Oh. Excuse me. Date and then Lewis Carroll. Lewis Carroll, but this is John Tenniel, right? Sir John Tenniel. One thing I've been noticing is sometimes I want to inject more of myself into my picture, you know, my homage picture, and like it's important to me that it's like an homage, but you know, sometimes I think I get a little tied up with the, you know, wanting to have it be a certain, getting tied up in like the outcome instead of the process, you know what I mean? And that's just a thing that we always have to work on together, you know, as on our own. I guess what I'm saying is we all, as humans, right, we deal with this. As artists, we all have to, and just as humans, like with things that we, you know, some habits that we might get into or whatnot. And I think yesterday I said I want to stay away from a bad habit that might be forming. And I think what I meant by that, and in hindsight, I will say, I think it's finding the balance between my homage picture and making it a true something that is representative of what an homage would be, right? Which is like a respect for the artist and this and that, to the artist whose picture you're homaging, but also we don't need to like try and make it look exactly. I think sometimes I just appreciate the art so much that I'm like, I want to explore the process that they like. I want to get into their mind creatively and like do something and try and experience that process, even if I'm using different materials to do it, right? So like experience the outcome of creating an art that looks similar to that. And I feel like that was sort of the Laura Trowbridge, because I was very interested in having what I created to look similar to hers. And there's different ways you can do like an homage, you know? It doesn't have to look like theirs. It can look like this is like a bizarro version of John Tenniel's, but his work in and of itself was wild and like was very, you know, original and subversive and interesting. I use the word interesting a lot, don't I? But maybe that's for lack of a more descriptive term, right? But I do think this is a true homage because his stuff was so like wild, and this is kind of a little bit of a wild version, because if you're gonna use his work as an inspiration, you're thinking, oh, you're gonna do it in like a pen nib or something, right? Something that looks similar. But no, I ended up with this brush, and I'm very happy I did, because look at how loose and crazy this is. This is like not at all what I expected, and that's what I like. I like having a unique surprise. I like having a surprise, right? Like, oh, I didn't know that was going to happen, but let's go with it. kind of what I'm after. I like that. I mean, honestly, that's like part of why lives are fun and interesting. Oh, I said it again. Interesting. Because you don't know what's gonna happen. And that is something I really enjoy. Most of the time. Not all the time, but a lot of the time. And then the rest of the time you just pivot and try and make it work and just try and be, you know, just be upfront and be yourself, and, you know, it's not always going to be perfect. You're not always going to say the right thing. You don't always know everything. I don't know everything. I'm the first person to admit I know almost nothing. So, I know almost nothing. And I'm here to learn. I'm here to learn in this world. I know next to nothing about history, I'll say. So I'm learning. I'm learning about that. Let's do that, and then let's write Lewis Carroll. I will start working again in 1 second. I'm just checking some spelling stuff. The worst thing is when you think you know how to spell something and then you spell it wrong. And then, like, say you write it in ink on a piece of paper, which you could correct with some white ink correction, but do we really want to have to do that? I don't really want to have to do that. And then I'm gonna write, I mean, really, that's it. I'm not gonna write. I think I will write, actually, homage to John. I'm gonna write it down here. John Tenniel, because we want to remember his name, and that this is based on his unique expression. Oh, you know what I just noticed? The rabbit has a different type of plaid on his little neck piece that I didn't put in here originally. Sir. There we go. Right on. Okay, give me 1 second. I'm just rinsing out my brush a little bit. Not a lot of it, just a little bit. And where is my cap? Oh, it's in my hand. There it is. Look at all that ink I just wasted. I gotta fix that. Maybe I'll put in a pen after this stream. I'll just do this. Hold on. Okay. Hey, thank you guys so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it. I hope you've enjoyed this. I hope you enjoyed learning about John Tenniel today. And learning about his life and career. That eye thing is so devastating. Anyway, what a life. And let's look at who we're going to do tomorrow. Just a minute. Let's look. Let me go on to the tubular, on the utubular here. Just a second. I am very much reliant on my on the posts that I have already up, because I just basically go to my this is how I look and see who's the next day. Yes, this is actually the way that I find out who's tomorrow. Tomorrow is Kate Greenaway. Kate Greenaway. I think she's a botanical artist. Let's look and find out. And don't you worry, I will be prepared with the gallery show, and we're going to talk all about her life via our friend Wikipedia. Kate Greenaway, and she was an English Victorian artist and writer known for her children's book illustrations. Why did I think she did botanical? Maybe she also did botanical work. Okay, so if that sounds good to you, come on back tomorrow, 10 a.m. and I'm here and I'm drinking my coffee with you, and we're going to do a full Wikipedia read of her life and times, and then we're going to draw an homage piece to her. So I hope to see you then. Like, subscribe, do all the things, please, if you like this, and I would love to have you back. So let me just check the stream real quick before I go, because I like to say goodbye to everybody who's here. Everyone who's here and who has visited with me today, I definitely want to say hey and hi and bye, Megan. I hope you have an awesome day, and I hope to see you tomorrow for Kate Greenaway. And Ashish Chandran, you're too kind. How are you so beautiful? Oh, you're a crack up. Okay, well, thank you. And bye, Megan, and everybody else, anybody else who's here now or in the future. I hope you have a great day, and I hope to see you tomorrow for Kate Greenaway at 10 a.m. Eastern. Same channel, same time, all that stuff. Okay. All right. Have a great day, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.